Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Demetrius Johnson, and you're listening to MMALatestNews.com.
It's time to roll, baby.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to MMA Latest. We're here live with Gary for the UFC Vegas 11 post-fight recap. Colby Covington, he defeated Tyron Woodley. You know, he didn't do himself any favours, did he, in that post-fight speech?
No, he didn't at all, and that's just what you've come to expect from him at this point. He just seems to get worse and worse. At the start, he seemed to just be playing that sort of, taking it in that sort of pro wrestling route. You know, you've got the character, he's supposed to get all the crowd against him, but there's a certain level, and he's just taken it too far. He's been bordering into the racism side of things so much now. He was just blatantly racist at this one, and with all the stuff about speaking about people's dead coaches in the past and stuff like that, there's really no sort of redeeming qualities from him at this point.
Yeah, we can't condone what he does, but it does, it tarnishes what was a good performance in the cage.
Yeah, it was an amazing performance, and I know some people seem to think he'll get battered in his next fight just because he said something like that. It doesn't change the fact about that. I would be on his side if it was the case that when you're talking about stuff like pro wrestling and all that kind of thing, the scripting aspect of it, or if you're playing a character in a film or something, the whole idea of that is that person's supposed to get their comeuppance at the end. That's the whole point of that. If you stuck Ryan Reynolds in a film tomorrow and he was playing Adolf Hitler, if it turns out at the end of it that Hitler was the good guy all along, we would absolutely hate Ryan Reynolds for that. So the fact that Colby Covington is playing this character, but he's going in there and actually trying to win the fights, there is no comeuppance then for that. He wants to win. He wants to be that bad person. So at the end of it, you can't just say this thing. And as you say, we're talking about this now. It was a fantastic performance from him, and honestly, couldn't give less of a fuck about it. Like, just such a bad human being that I don't care if he can win it. I'm not going to tune in to see him get beat either at this point. I think I'm a little bit more clued into that. That was the Floyd Mayweather angle, and he played that well. But I'm not even doing it with Colby. I'm not even giving that satisfaction of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because obviously he made this character for himself because he was going to get cut from the UFC before the RDA fight or just after it. And it's interesting. Well, it isn't interesting, but at the same time, it's like how much more can he do? How much further can he go? And is willing to go? Because obviously, we started off with the going after Brazil. Then he pushes that boundary even more, and he's already crossed the line 50 times previously.
I would have said the Brazil thing wasn't even that bad at the time as well. It did get booed off every day. It's quite a rough crowd to throw things at you. Yeah, he took his shot back, and even then, it wasn't. If someone said that everyone from Scotland is this, I wouldn't care. I think Darren Till actually took a shot at us recently. But I wouldn't even care about that. It's the stuff he's done since then, what he's went into beyond that. And it doesn't, the whole angle of he was doing that to save his career. His career's been saved ages ago. He's completely secure now. This isn't helping anything now. And even that aspect of saving his career, I don't know if I've ever heard Dana White come out and say explicitly, I was going to cut Colby Covington. He must have been doing something to have that. He's not the first wrestler in the world who, back then, he was just kind of holding people down. He's not the first ever wrestler to do that. So what was he doing? What was different about him that was causing UFC to want to cut somebody, especially someone from a prominent gym, someone who a couple of people would know a little bit about? He trains with like some Masvidal. If Masvidal got to this point, you never know. Colby could have started having a name. So I don't know the true validity of how much his career was on the line at that point to make that sort of character. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter. The character is what it is, and yeah, he's just a scumbag for it.
Yeah, it is a real shit character. I was making the comparisons to the Conor McGregor in terms of he started to live that gimmick that he's portrayed for himself and taken it too far. But even then, I think the gimmick, it's incomparable in terms of the two lines that they went down and chose their gimmicks. And I think, look at Henry Cejudo. He's someone, he used that Triple C gimmick to his advantage, but he never really went that far over the hill. You knew what you was getting. You knew you was getting that part of the promotional aspect. And we saw him on Joe Rogan. I think he gave a good account to himself that he's a smart guy and not a bad guy, Henry Cejudo. But I think Colby Covington's just flipped it on his head. Chael Sonnen is known for a gimmick. We've seen it throughout sport. We've seen someone use that personality, and you could say that the political aspect and the political angle is not even that bad. But what he did this weekend is just pure wrong.
Yeah, and as I said before, it's different if you're talking all these characters and stuff like that. At the end of the day, they're not trying to be the actual. Well, I know in Chael Sonnen's case, it was literally his nickname, but he's not really being the bad guy. Things that these guys did, as along with Connor, is they managed to separate off a little bit of their fandom. That you've got that side where people absolutely despise you, they hate your whole character, but then you're managing to turn all these other people into complete militant fans. And I know Colby's got that with racist America. That's all going to be on his shoulders there and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's not even trying to give himself those endearing qualities. At the same time, he's not trying to give us any insight. He done one out of character interview in the last X amount of years, and yeah, he's not even trying at that point. He's just trying to be as bad as he can. I don't even think he cares about the likes of the people that are fans of him. I don't think he's trying to actually be America's hero or anything like that. I think it's just some bollocks that he's cooked up to be his character. Hopes people do the Floyd Mayweather thing where they all just despise him and pay to see him get knocked out, and he's just happening to probably even make a fool of the people that are fans of him along the way. That if obviously we're talking about is out of the cage character. If you just want to be Colby Covington's great in the cage, completely fine. You're allowed to do that, but the people that are fans of his out of cage character, he's a parody. He's making fun of you. You have to realize that he's not trying to make himself seem like he's endearing to you. He's making fun of you. So at the end of the day, you're just looking stupid. He's making you look stupid, and at the end of the day, he's saying what he's saying as well. So he's got no redemption on that either.
Yeah, I try and see the good in people. It's hard with this one. It's like it'd be interesting to see. He only does it at sound bites. For 5-10 minutes at a time when he knows he's on the camera. It'd be interesting to see if he did go on Joe Rogan or something like that and did it 3 or 4 hours. Would he break out of that character? Would he be able to keep it up for 3 or 4 hours? Because I know Brendan Sharp. He's not the greatest name in the sport, not the greatest character in the sport, but he did relay that good story about him, saying that he isn't this evil character, this evil person that we think is, but it's very much blurred lines at the moment. But we'll bring it back to In the Cage. What a fantastic performance!
Yeah, absolutely amazing. He really turned it up in this one. I'd say it looked worse than he has in his recent fights, I think, a little bit, in the sense of when you look at striking that he had done against Usman, against Woodley here, you really think he could have got Woodley out of there if he fought like he did against Usman. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. He managed to not only beat him in the feet, put him against the cage, but he completely dominated him with his wrestling. That first takedown that he landed in the first round, where it was just completely open field, double leg, completely just took him down immediately. I never thought he would have that in him. I thought he'd be a little bit more of a sort of back you up against the cage, do something from there kind of guy, but nope, just completely landing those takedowns, getting them in the clinch. You can't knock the performance at all.
Yeah, it's almost it hurts more to credit him, doesn't it, at the moment, because we know what he's outside the cage. So it's very much it's either full hatred or full love. You can't go, oh, he was great in the cage, but because then that makes you look like you're almost condoning what he does outside of it. But his performance inside, as you mentioned, he did become almost known for or become expecting of. For a fan's point of view, you're going to see him up against the cage against somebody like Robbie Lawler. He put him up against the cage for 5 rounds and beat him down pretty much. But he did show better striking tonight. Obviously, previously to the fight, his coach came out and said he's not actually really a southpaw. He's not this and that, and he did land some heavy strikes. I think he landed the heavy of the strikes. Tyron Woodley was a bit gun shy, and maybe whether that's because he's 38 years of age now, maybe his reflexes and his speed just isn't what it was 3-4 years ago. But Colby Covington looked better in the aspects where you think Tyron Woodley would have excelled on the night.
I would have argued with you till the end of time that Tyron Woodley wasn't just getting old, and it was something that we were just making up because when someone starts to lose, you say, oh, there's a reason they're losing, as opposed to people just got better. I was really confident that Usman was going to beat Woodley, so I completely chalked that one off to Usman was just a better fighter. And I made some money on that one, so I'll get the receipts for it as well. And then when you got Burns, we're talking one fight then in Woodley's entire run where he started to look like he was a bit gun shy and wasn't really doing much. I think the difference here is he got those opportunities. He had those moments where Colby was kind of standing in front of him and he just wasn't throwing the shots. He wasn't getting badly rocked. He wasn't throwing back. And even at one point, the one that really annoyed me was he got a takedown on Colby, and Colby went down. First takedown he tried, got him down. Never tried it again. if you're losing every other aspect, just try something else. Go for the takedown, see what happens. Maybe you can steal a round, start to get yourself some confidence. But yeah, Woodley just didn't seem in it at all, and I think probably we're looking at him. Either I'd like to see him hang it up now, or if you're going to do it, like I know he wants to fight again, give him someone towards the bottom of the division. I hate this thing that we do in UFC is where you get these guys like say like a Shogun or a Dan Henderson, all these guys, and we have to keep giving them these actual names to fight every time. Why can't, if it looks like they might retire soon, see how they do against a new guy in the division, keep dropping them back down the ladder again to the bottom, and then see if they're able to compete at all. And if they get beat, then clearly they're not ready. Cut them, get rid of them. But if they manage to beat them, clearly they're as good as anyone else in the middle of the pack. So keep them wherever they're comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking that maybe that first takedown. I don't know if that was pre-rib injury, but maybe the fact that his rib did go out, I believe, in that second or third round, didn't it? He initially felt it, so maybe he went for the takedown when he was 100%, and then that rib injury, meant he couldn't do that takedown at once again. But it's interesting that I feel he's getting disrespected. A lot of people have come out and said he's quit in that fight. You don't quit when you got a broken rib. That's a serious injury, and one that you can be almost let off for verbally tapping on the night.
I'll have a controversial one because I'm never usually one that's going to take those kind of shots at fighters. I don't think Woodley quit there, but I think Woodley had already quit in that fight though. The fact that he wasn't doing anything back, he's not trying anything new, he's not trying to throw punches. At that point, he's just going until he gets stopped or until the decision goes. If you're not trying anything, like say he gets back to his feet, it's I can't remember which finished in the last round. So say round four, he gets back to his feet, he charges forward. Where's the strikes? I even see amateur fighters do that all the time. That once they're getting beat, as soon as they get back to their feet, they're like, right, I've got 3 seconds to make something work before I go down. You're not seeing any of that from Woodley at all there. So in a little bit, I think he had checked out of that fight. He was doing it, but that's nothing to do with the finish in my mind. He was going till the end of that. You were going to have to actually stop him, or he was going to that decision. And yeah, his rib got injured, and Kobe got the stoppage.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a good part in terms of 3 fights in a row this is now, where his corner's gone. You need to start going. You need to start going. You need to light them up. You're going to lose this fight, and he just hasn't. So maybe it is more of the mentality thing where we were talking about this on the preview, where maybe he just doesn't want to hurt people anymore. Maybe he just doesn't have that fire in him that he had, when he was on the rise to become welterweight champion.
It's something that I don't know because I'm not in that position to do that. But what I would have to think, and I know we talked about this with Rory McDonald when he's had his recent thing where he's saying he doesn't want to hurt people. But when they're in there and someone's trying to hurt you, surely the least you can do is try and stop them from hurting you. If Woodley's not trying to go for a takedown, not trying to get control of the clinch, not trying to throw punches to get Colby away from him, where's his instinct to defend himself then? He's not even trying to avoid getting these punches. At that point, when you're in the cage, it is essentially that person's trying to hurt you. So the way to stop them from hurting you is to stop them from doing that. You have to either start hurting them or at least do something to control the situation. And Woodley wasn't doing that at all. So in that sense, is it a case that he's just scared to hurt someone, or is it a case that he's just checked out and he doesn't have it mentally to go forward again? Like obviously it might not be the case. It might be something that you can just feel that you're defending yourself by covering up, and then you could, if you're throwing punches, you're hurting them. But I would have to think though that sense of self defense has to come into it, and if it's not coming into it, something's up mentally with you. In that case, it's some sort of blockage you've got.
Yeah, definitely. I was just looking at the ages there. Usman, Burns, and Colby are in that 32 to 34 range, so they're in their athletic prime, whereas Woodley, being 38, he's on that tail end of career. He's where they were when he won the title against Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, obviously, probably since then has been over the hill for a little while now. But these three guys at the top of the division are going to be controlling the title fights in the next 6-7 months, potentially even a year. There's only so long you can go, and Father Time catches up with you. I think Woodley, he does either need to retire, and Dana White came out and said in his post-fight press conference to say it's probably time to think about hanging it up. And once Dana White says it's time to hang up, he's going to be a bit more reluctant to put you out there in the cage and to keep booking your fights. Now, whether you rebook someone like a Robbie Lawler, someone who's on that 38, 39 age level with him, and not. I think that's probably why he's not one to fight Leon Edwards, who's 27. I think there's where Leon Edwards is on that rise. It doesn't benefit Woodley in any way.
Well, it doesn't benefit him now, but he did sign for that fight. He was going in to do it. Woodley just loves to make things awkward for himself. I've never been a Woodley fan his whole career. And when you look through the people he beat, he fought the best of the best. He was really everyone. And if you just take it in that sort of tangible, we're looking at a record and we're seeing who he's fighting kind of way, it looks good for him. But when you actually were a fan at those times and you go through it, when he's trying not to rematch Wonderboy, even though the first was a draw, or when he's trying to not give Damian Maia a fight, despite the fact who would have ever thought Damian Maia would get a title shot, he just didn't make it easy for himself. And I think that was the same situation with Leon Edwards, where he's coming out and saying things like, if you diss my rap career again, I'm not going to fight you. Like, I don't know, he never done himself any favours, but that's a testament to just how much of a dickhead Colby Covington is, considering that Tyron Woodley came into this one as the good guy. Everybody loved him, everybody's way behind Woodley. It just took somebody being that much more of a deplorable character, I guess, to take the term, for Woodley to really come out of it. And he had some good characters throughout it as well. And I'm hoping that if Woodley is going to hang it up, he does get some sort of opportunity. That anytime I've seen him on the ESPN post fight or something, he's always really intelligent, really has that good analyst mind to take himself out of it and not make it all about himself. But as soon as you get him in fight mode, I've always been like, oh, Woodley, shut the fuck up, So if you take him away from fight mode, you get him in the booth, then we'll see. We'll see if he does fight again. But I'm hoping he isn't given someone top level. You're right on that Robbie Lawler fight, but I don't know if I want to see two guys at the same time just not doing what you want them to do. It would be pretty gutting because Lawler's in the exact same boat. It's surprising as well that, as you're saying about his age and stuff, usually when you watch it, especially you watch these guys over in Poland and stuff like that, these big heavyweights that are like 47 years old, steroids out there and stuff like that. The only thing they've got left is to go over and throw big hands at each other. They know they can't do anything else. The only thing they can do is throw that power. And that's the one thing Woodley's not doing. He seems to still have the cardio. He seemed quite good in that fight, stamina-wise, especially because he was getting held against the cage the whole time. I don't know if it slipped age-wise for him, because he's not throwing a punch for me to see if it's slow. He's just not doing it. So it's the thing that goes with age, really, is usually the physical aspects, and he seems to still be as motivated in training because he's coming in fantastic shape, and training's the hardest part. That's the part that breaks you down mentally, that where you're not seeing your family when you're making sacrifices. The going out and fighting in the cage part is what anyone can do. So I don't know what's up with him to have that blockade, that when he gets in there, just refuses to throw a single shot.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at the latter ends of the welterweight rankings. I'd put money on watching a fight against Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, Robbie Lawler. If you were giving me that fight and that matchup against Woodley, either Nick Diaz, if Nick Diaz comes back and you go Woodley, Nick Diaz, I'm paying money to watch that fight nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm conflicted on Nick Diaz coming back, because he was like my number one guy for a while, but I would like to hear him have a string together a coherent sentence before I want to see him going out there and getting in fights again. But yeah, I love that's a real good fight. Again, same with Nate Diaz as well. These are guys that are really beatable unless you do what Woodley's currently doing. So it would just be a case that we'd either get this amazing Diaz brother performance where they put him against the fence and they mess him up, or Woodley just has to do something, make it change, because Woodley can beat Nate Diaz with his eyes closed if he wants to. Get land the takedown. He's barely through any takedowns in his career, but he can take Nate down. Probably bang in a hard leg kick as well. But is he going to do it? That's the thing. Is Woodley going to do anything when he gets in the cage? Is really, really the big question for everyone.
Hold on, you're just breaking up there. Technical difficulties. Right, I think you're back.
Typical.
Not quite. Hold on. Let me bring you back in. Yeah, I think we're good, but I was thinking that. Yeah, I think we're better now. But I was just thinking there was a fight, 3-4 years ago that was being touted about, was the Conor McGregor fight against Tyron Woodley. Would you be open?
I think it would be a bit cheap now. It's a little bit like, if you give that to Conor now, that's going to look like Conor has achieved the thing that he said he was going to achieve back then. And I think if Woodley's just no longer going to throw any punches, you're kind of taking away the the intrigue of what that was. Conor doesn't deserve to be able to say, I beat that welterweight champion when I was the lightweight champion, because he didn't beat that guy. That's someone else now, you know? So I don't know if he deserves that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking there. Obviously there was a couple rumours about Woodley's financial situation in terms of he spent a lot of money at welterweight. McGregor wants to fight, wants to come back. Those two had a bit of back and forth when they're both champions. It's a good payday for Woodley, potentially a last send off, and it's a McGregor fight. No one turns down McGregor fights, do they?
Yeah, Woodley's been chasing those money fights his whole career, and he's just not managed to get any of them. So we'll see if he could finally get one on the downslide. That'd be pretty massive to him. But I don't know if I'm that optimistic. And well, he's just off this. Although it was an amazing card, and many thought it could be a pay per view. At the end of the day, this was a fight night card, and he just got his third loss in a row. So I don't know if anyone's buying pay per views headlined by Tyron Woodley at this moment in time.
They're buying him headline by McGregor, but we'll move on to
Yeah.
the co-main event. Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price again. Another welterweight in terms of Donald Cerrone, who many have looked this weekend and gone, maybe it is time to hang the gloves up as well. Do you think this is the last time we saw Cerrone in the cage?
Yeah, again, that was another guy would have fought you to death on previously. That Woodley, I think, Cerrone's looked great in a lot of his fights, and people just give him shots, especially when you link people to McGregor. You're either terrible or you're terrible if you fight McGregor. No one will give you any credit regardless. So, yeah, Cerrone, I would have said he looked great every fight, but as soon as he came out in this one, and I know he'd done his typical slow start, and Nico Price messed him up a bit, but he was just very, very slow. And it is a case that you say he did a great job against a really good fighter, Nico Price here, and it's a draw, and it could have easily went to Cerrone. But at the end of the day, if Cerrone is only going to get worse from now on, do you still want to see him fighting at that point? So I think maybe just he's going to keep wanting to fight, and he's capable of fighting. So maybe, and the guy wants to make money. You can't tell him that he's not allowed to fight. Like, then in which case does he leave his contract and go fight somewhere else where there's less protection on him? So maybe just slowly have him dropping down that card further and further now, and just see what you can get out of him until he's too slow that you're like, right, that's it. He's not going to beat any of these guys in UFC anymore. So let's call it.
Yeah, 100%. I think, even then, you mentioned the McGregor fight. A lot of people still to this day say that Cerrone came out and took a dive for the payday against McGregor. That was McGregor's return, 40 seconds. Even he was shocked that the fight would be over that long. He didn't look great against Anthony Pettis, albeit a close fight. And again, last night, I thought he looked okay. I thought he looked decent. And I thought, that early onslaught that Price gave him, I thought, oh, okay, maybe you are done. But he withheld it, and he came back. And obviously that eye poke, lost a point for Nico Price.
How many eye pokes as well?
Yeah, double eye poke as well on the night. Eye poke at the same time. Do you think? And we'll go back to that in a little bit, but I think it's heartbreaking, and I think that Dana White also came out and said, I'm gonna need to have that heartbreaking chat with Cerrone, who's been a fantastic, he's Hall of Fame, he's at the top of that almost in terms of what he's given to the company. And it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Obviously, I think there might be a little bit, in terms of comparisons like the Chuck Liddell, where Dana White almost has to force him to retire.
I don't think he's going to be able to. I think if I'm correct that the UFC's mandatory thing they have to do every year is that they have to offer you a fight, and if they don't offer you a fight, then that's breaking their side of the contract. I think we've heard that in terms of the likes of Nate Diaz and stuff, who say the UFC is not giving me anything. They're like, we have to give you something, or we have to pay you. So if you don't accept a fight, then you don't get paid. So I think if they don't offer Cerrone fights, he's going to keep fighting. He just came out of that draw with Nico Price in the co-main event at UFC. So how are you going to convince him that he can't go to Bellator and have a great career and make as much money as he can? So I don't think Dana White's going to be able to convince him. I think he'd have to go, here's 10 million for you never to fight again. And Dana White doesn't like parting with that level of money. So yeah, he would have to get like shares in the company, and even then, it's Donald Cerrone, man. That guy wants to go a million miles an hour just to go to the shop in his motorbike or something. He's not going to want to stop the thrill of fighting. So what's it going to be after this? He's not going to go and do jiu-jitsu tournaments for a living. So he's going to want to fight, and he's still capable of it at this point. So unless you're putting him in UFC, he's going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think these two also gave us the most wholesome moment in terms of their post-fight speech together with Megan O'Leary, saying how Cerrone was going, I'm going to drive home through the night bleeding to go and make sure I wake up in time for my son. And I'm just thinking, he has got 2 young children now. Obviously, prior to that, I'd imagine Cerrone was all guns blazing. He probably still is to some extent, but I wonder the fact that he now does have 2 very young children, whether it's almost withheld, holds him back, 10, 15% in terms of he might just retire for his family.
From listening to him before, it doesn't sound like that's crossed his mind. Not to say it's a negative thing and stuff, but I think he lives for the thrill of everything like that. Didn't he say he was going like ice skiing or something after this fight? The guy just lives for that stuff, and I think if he thinks he stops moving, he'll die, so he's going to do it. That wholesome moment, I don't know, I think Nico Price is one of the weirdest guys in the UFC. Things like telling Donald Cerrone that he wants to be him and stuff like that. I don't know, he was crossing some lines there. I'm thinking Cerrone will have to keep the porch light on, or there's going to be people creeping about outside the house any day now. Because, Nico Price, the fact that he celebrated a draw so adamantly in a fight that quite a lot of people thought that he should have won as well. You're like, what's he celebrating the draw for? You just got half of your money taken away from you in a fight that was very winnable for you. Like 2 more punches, you would have made another, I don't know what he's on, but 30 grand or something at minimum. So, yeah, I don't know what's gone through Nico Price's head, but good luck to him anyways.
Yeah, it's a good point. The fact that he did celebrate a draw when, one eye poke, one less of an eye poke, he would have won that 29-28 on 2 of the judges' scorecards. So, what happens in the draw? Because obviously you get your share and your win money. Do they split half the win money, or they just get their show money?
Do they get their win money? I don't know if they get their win money. I think I've heard before that they just get their show money because no one won.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's a little hard.
Typical UFC move, isn't it? UFC all over is that kind of move, We told you we were giving you a win bonus. You're like, you've got the money sitting there that you were going to give to one of us, and you're like, nah, it's a win bonus, obviously.
Yeah, they obviously gave that money to Khamzat Chimaev, who ran ragged on Saturday night against Gerald Meerschaert. 17 seconds, 1-punch knockout. And I think you nailed it perfectly in your tweet. There's a lot of people saying he's more like Khabib, but you said he's more like McGregor, and I think you're onto something there.
Well, I didn't necessarily mean he was going to go out and knock him out 17. I can take the credit of the 17-second knockout that looked like McGregor Aldo, but at the end of the day, I was meaning more his personality. He really reminds me of Conor, the way he walks in the door and he's immediately pointing at all of those people at the top of the division. That was exactly what Conor done. I remember him coming in and just, I could never find it. I've looked for it a few times, but he basically just made a list of every top guy in the division and took a shot at every one of them, Like almost like that before the whole boom roasted thing took off with Askren. Conor was trying it, and that seems to be what Khamzat. I keep saying Khamzat or Kazmat. Chimaev. That's what Chimaev keeps doing, he's taking shots at absolutely everyone. At this point, I'm bordering on that. Let's just mute all of his social media because I'm starting to hate him. His fans commenting saying, "Oh, you couldn't put him in with Colby. It would absolutely murder Colby." And you're like, because of his win over Gerald Meerschaert, that's proven that he can murder Colby Covington. You need to give him a little bit more time, see where he's at, kind of thing. But he looks fantastic, even if he does seem like a little bit of a dickhead. At the end of the day, it is drawing more people's eyes to him. He's not crossing all of the lines of Colby, although I think there might have been some comments with Kevin Holland that could have been bordering on like that, but that's just seems to be UFC these days. Also, like, I would be remiss if I don't say that Khamzat has his potential links to some bad people over in Russia, and I don't know I think it's ISIS and stuff like that. So whether that is or not true, that is allegedly. Don't sue us.
Yeah, that's a huge allegedly out there.
Khamzat Chimaev. We're talking the Russian media. Sue them. They're the ones that said that. So he's got many negative connotations, but luckily for him so far, it seems to not be crossing into that next level with the fans. They don't really seem to be seeing that yet, and hopefully he can just keep himself distant from all that because he's training in Sweden as well. He does have that little bit of distance where he can, and he seems that little bit more Europeanized. I know Russia's in Europe, but you know what I mean. Like they have their own sort of strict culture, whereas he seems a little bit more up for a bit more of the crack and stuff like that, being that he's lived with the lads in Sweden who like a laugh. So he's got that side of him. Let's hope he doesn't go too much, or let's just hope he lives up to the hype. So instead of saying, "Oh, there's another guy just talking shit about everybody and being really disrespectful," it's like the way it turned out with McGregor on the end. You're like, okay, well, he was onto something. He's kind of a genius, actually. Let's give him give him the benefit of the doubt. But what a performance, anyways. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it shocked me because obviously the two went back and forth in that post-up press conference, really thinking, oh, something's building up here. It might be in for something special. And I don't know if it comes to Chimaev sooner or later, but I think there's an experience that's going to humble him coming in the next year or two. I don't know. I mean, it might not do. He might go on this tear up, and obviously you mentioned the McGregor factor, but the fact that this guy's doing it in two weight classes already, going up and down between the two of them, going right, I'll pick you off. He's got a Damian Maia fight apparently, in a couple of weeks, albeit Damian Maia's not fully accepted and agreed to that fight. I'd hope that Damian Maia's gone, you know what, I don't want that one anymore. I'm good. He doesn't need to be getting Chimaev, but he did it in one punch, and he's had three different impressive wins now. One was obviously the takedown, and against John Phillips, and he did very well against Ed. Rhys McKee, he obliterated Rhys McKee with all due respect. But this one, a one-punch knockout and the walk-off is something special for him.
Yeah, and I think the difference between Khamzat Chimaev and the likes of, say, we had like Volkan Ozdemir or Johnny Walker, the likes of those guys, is when they were finishing these fights really quickly. They were just leaving us with more question marks that we hadn't seen things get answered with them, and they could get exposed in the end. We have seen both of them on occasions have that happen. The difference with Chimaev to me is that he's shown us enough in them. So he's shown us so much of his grappling, that he's shown us his ability to get the takedown, to get that sort of positioning, to land the good strikes, to look for submissions as well. And now he's shown that he's capable of that knockout punch. I know anybody that's been watching him since Brave does know that his striking is, if anything, quite closely on par with his grappling. So he has a really, really dangerous threat. But at the end of the day, it just shows that he's got that knockout power as well, that it isn't that he's just not showing us enough things. I think he's shown us loads of things, and he's shown us that he's got skills in every single area. And yeah, he's going to be a major threat. The Damian Maia fight, I'm only interested in it if he goes to the ground immediately. At this point, Damian Maia, I'm just interested to see these fun fights with him. Askren was a dream fight for me. I just want to see how Damian deals with these sort of guys that are these super grapplers, but I've never seen anybody out grapple Damian Maia before. So he's my guy though. Damian Maia is maybe my favorite fighter in UFC. So I would love to see that fight if that's how it played out. I don't see it happening like that. I see Chimaev coming out, maybe even like making fun of him on the feet or something. You're like, that's the opposite of what you want to see when someone fights Damian Maia. No, you're not pressing anybody by outboxing Damian Maia. So if you're going to fight him, take it to the ground. Let's see if you can outmatch the greatest MMA grappler of all time.
Yeah, it is a dangerous one, especially when there's the age side is over the decade mark in terms of Chimaev is only 26, 27, and Damian Maia's in his early 40s now, I believe. So it's one of those ones that could go either way. Either, as you mentioned there, Damian Maia takes him down, grapples him, and maybe teaches him a bit of a lesson in terms of respect. But on the flip side, you see Chimaev running through Damian Maia, which none of us wants to see. The biggest question for me for Chimaev, and I think we'll find it out within the next 6 months, is just how good he is. Because as you mentioned, there's people wanting to throw him in there against the likes of Leon Edwards, Colby Covington's, Jorge Masvidal's. People want to see him get given a title shot. And even though part of me goes, you know what, let's just do it. Let's just see how good he is. And if he takes a stumble back, it doesn't hurt him too much. But at the same time, I want to see him grind up there. But I think he's on the almost express train now up to that title shot.
Well, he's got the two perfect ones back to back now. With the Meerschaert fight, was just given that sort of veteran someone. Well, you've got Rhys McKee who's coming in, and he's an amazing fighter, but that's brand new for him and on late notice. So it's always going to be an uphill battle for him compared to it. Also, he's not got the world's greatest takedown defense and stuff. Whereas Gerald Meerschaert, he knows his stuff. He's got 45 fights under his belt. He knows the game inside out. So to be able to dominate him was a good transition up. And then you could Damian Maia is a good next step in that, because as much as people say, oh, he beat a 40-whatever-year-old Damian Maia, yeah, a 43-year-old Damian Maia who's ranked up there because he's still beating everyone you're putting in front of him. Damian Maia's doing spectacular. And you don't give him the credit for the Ben Askren win, because Askren gets all the flack for that now. But Askren was just in there with Jorge Masvidal. He just beat Robbie Lawler, however controversial it was. So for Damian Maia to make him look that bad, I think he was always going to make him look that bad. Damian Maia is just that good. I think people don't get how amazing Damian Maia is, that when he takes it to the ground, no one's been better than him. You look at what he done to Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson's an amazing grappler, and he just absolutely destroyed him. Like got every single position, just made him look like he's never done a jiu-jitsu class in his life. And even Gilbert Burns, I think someone did tell me that he did go at the ground with Damian Maia, but it's not in my recollection of it. As a Damian Maia fan, I was pretty raging when he stood back up, took it to the feet, and then landed the knockout. I was like, who was expecting Damian Maia to win a striking match? We were hearing this. Gilbert Burns is an incredible grappler. Let's see it happen then. Get down on the ground and see the amazing jiu-jitsu play out, because what's the point in beating him in a striking match? No one thought you wouldn't.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the sky's the limit for Chimaev, and I think he is, he's becoming the hottest prospect and he's becoming a star in a short amount of time. I think it was like 66 days, from his first win to his win at the weekend, which is, I think it's a half of, or even a third of the time that, middleweight champion Adesanya made it. And we see how quickly he rose through the ranks. So
Yeah.
Chimaev, he's probably going to be rookie of the year this year, but boy, is he in for an exciting 2021.
There was a beautiful post I seen online as well with obviously the biggest mouth that calls ever. Dylan Dennis put something up saying, "Oh, Dana White, give me this guy," and someone replied saying, Chimaev's fought more and won more fights in the last 66 days than you have in your entire MMA career," which was just such a beautiful put down for Dennis.
I saw that. I also saw a good meme of taking it back to the Family Guy penguin and elephant meme, and it was like Conor McGregor could be. It's like, what have you done over here, guys? It's that did make me chuckle, because there's similar connections that you can make to both Khabib and McGregor. But we'll move on now to Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. He did return. Johnny Walker, he got hurt in that first round. Another one who took some damage early in that first round, but he came back, got the finish. How impressed was you with Johnny Walker this weekend?
I've never been the biggest fan of him. As in when he first landed his first couple of knockouts in the UFC and he done it in seconds, he was the example of the guy I was talking about earlier. That when you watched his pre-UFC fights, there was fights he was getting taken down, they looked terrible in, and he just seemed to pull it off at the last minute. It was a little similar to sometimes Ben Askren fighting as well. He just pulls out a win even though he looked bad. So when he gets signed to UFC, you're like, oh, he's on a 6-fight win streak or something. But realistically, he was actually quite lucky in one of them, and or whatever, if you want to call it luck in MMA. But he comes out and he just shows how much of a dangerous guy he is, especially in that first round on the feet. You can knock him out. He's not got the best chin in the world. Did get rocked badly. He's not got this most solid defense. But if you don't put him away straight away, which Spann didn't, straight away he turned it around and managed to put Spann out. First round, only a round and a half as well. And what, did he get hurt twice himself, Walker, on that one? I think he got 2 big shots in him that wobbled him.
He did. Well, because he got knocked down and then he almost got straight back up and got knocked down immediately again. And I feel for Ryan Spann in that one, because he should have probably won that fight, and on another night he probably would have got the win. But it just shows the heart that Johnny Walker has got, and whether that's something he's picked up working with John Kavanagh in the past couple months. Because obviously he took that loss to Corey Anderson and he got knocked out. And that was a huge statement for Corey Anderson, because not many people were expecting him to go in there and finish Johnny Walker like that, especially someone with such a wrestling-orientated background. And, he went on 2 fights to get Johnny Walker, but he came back and he did look good. And, you've seen it a couple more in a couple of recent fights. Those elbows against your opponent when you're clinched up against the fence, they're brutal.
Yeah, it was. We always give credit to them being the Travis Brown elbows, but actually, funnily enough, the guy that gets all the credit is McGregor. Done that in Cage Warriors, I believe, beforehand as well. But the elbows, they've been such a factor, but they only just creep up once or twice a year as well. But when someone's able to master that, it's just a position that's so common. You always go for that sort of takedown in that position. Then once you're there, it's just complete open season. And yeah, Johnny Walker absolutely wrecked him with it, and the amount of shots Ryan Spann took, I'd imagine he's out for a while, man, because his head was getting bounced all around the canvas, man.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a quick look at the statistics of this one, of course. And as you mentioned there, 30 strikes landed out of 34 in just over 2.5 minutes, or just under 2.5 minutes, sorry. 10 and 16 for Ryan Spann, 7 of them, were very significant strikes that put Johnny Walker down, and obviously 2 takedowns, but he comes away with the loss. You've got to feel sorry for him, haven't you?
Yeah, brutal. And you look at those strikes, they're not really telling as much of the story because a lot of those strikes that you're seeing from Walker, all of those were the ground ones. So Ryan Spann was clearly winning that fight up until that moment, and yeah, he just got absolutely brutalized. And yeah, like you feel for him a bit, but at the same time, we're only 2.5 minutes into the fight ish, just over 2.5. So I couldn't get to the point to say Ryan Spann was winning that fight. We just saw Cerrone a couple of fights later get much more damage into him, and he managed to come through and he's not a young guy like Walker is. So yeah, I wouldn't exactly say Ryan Spann had it in the bag at that moment or anything like that, but it definitely was looking like a hard night in the office for Walker, anyways.
Yeah, it takes me back to the Otherim Harris fight where we saw Harris come out of the gate straight away, take Otherim down, give them a lot of damage. The referee could have came in and stopped it, but he didn't. And obviously, we know that Otherim got the win that night. It felt very similar to that one. But for Johnny Walker, I want to see him against Anthony Smith. I think he's in that 11th range. He beat Serkinov. He lost to Nikita Krylov, who's at 9. So you're looking at that Anthony Smith Volkanovski fight next to Johnny Walker.
Yeah, those are both really good opponents because it's something that he'd be able to win, and he could win it the way he wins every fight. But at the same time, it's going to be a good lesson for him if it doesn't finish straight away because those two guys are able to mix up a bit. And Anthony Smith, I know, doesn't get the credit anymore just because he got so much brutal losses against Jones and Teixeira, but he's still a good fighter. And yeah, if whoever wins that fight or even whoever loses that fight, either or could be a really good opponent for Walker next, I'd imagine.
Yeah, 100%. We move on now to again another very impressive performance of the night was Mackenzie Dern against Randa Marcos. She came out, she had a good attempt at the striking, didn't she? She came out showing off her boxing with Perillo, and she came out in her post-fight press conference saying that she's a little embarrassed. I think run with it and say it's the best setup in UFC history.
Yeah, just a complete bait. Yeah. Oh no, I'm on the ground. I'm helpless. Whatever I'm going to do. What was Randall Marcos thinking, man? Like, there's only one thing you really have to think about with Mackenzie Dern. Maybe she's picked up her strike and then she's amazing now. Maybe that's happened. But at the end of the day, when you come into that fight, do not try and grapple Mackenzie Dern. What does Randall Marcos do? Straight away. And even worse than that is she went into the exact same position that Mara Barella went on earlier on in the card, that when she's like on her knees in guard and keeping her head completely up, that was the exact same position that we just saw Mara Barella get submitted on earlier. It was the exact same thing. Luckily she managed to survive initially, but Mackenzie Dern's even slicker than Jessica Rose Clark. So yeah, I don't know what Marcos was thinking, but standard, complete basic win for Mackenzie Dern, and just shows how good she is again, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's 2 fights, in a row now for her this year. And it's the same as Hannah Cythers. Hannah Cythers was winning the fight on the ground, but went for a takedown against Mackenzie Dern. It's just like you don't do that against Mackenzie Dern, no matter how confident you are, thinking you're winning a fight on the feet. You know, Mackenzie Dern is going to get comparisons to the likes of Damien Meyer, becoming a grappling specialist and someone you just don't want to go on the ground with. And at only 27 years of age, she's going to get better in that division.
Yeah, even the other comparison could even be Ronda Rousey. The fact that obviously Ronda had a few more tools to get it to the ground, but yeah, and if Mackenzie can pick up her striking, then she's going to be a massive problem. Because even something that a lot of people will forget as well from the Ronda Holly Holm fight, Ronda had this freak power that even though she was getting battered, and even though she didn't even know how to throw a punch properly, she landed one shot on Holly in that fight, and Holly shot in for a takedown after it landed. Holly Holm went for a takedown on Ronda Rousey. That could have been over on the spot. Wasn't, and it went very differently 10 seconds later. But that could be the same thing. If Mackenzie Dern can pick up her striking, as she said she is doing, if she can force other people to try and take her at the ground to mix it up, she's just going to be laughing all the way to the bank. If she can come out and outbox them, then yeah, what hope have they got? Because they're not going to beat her on the ground. So she's got a massive base, and especially in women's MMA, it doesn't really work as much in the guys' side of things anymore to be that sort of consummate grappler that you're just BJJ. The wrestlers are going to keep it standing and stuff, but we're still seeing this is really common in women's MMA for them to clinch up constantly. Mackenzie can, as soon as she gets her hands on you, if she can even pull guard, fight over. So we'll see. We'll see if she's able to pick up her strike and then actually become one of those proper top ones in that division.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Obviously, that fight against Amanda Rivas was her first loss, and Amanda Rivas is someone who's on that meteoric rise in that division as well. But before that fight, she was coming in as someone who almost became a bit of a meme in terms of she was missing weight a few times. You know, she wasn't looked at for her athletic ability. You know, but now she's coming in. She's looking in the best shape of her career. Seems to have got her nutrition down to the ground there. You know, she's changed up camps. You know, Jason Perillo is one of the best coaches and teams that you're gonna want to get if you want to improve your striking. So I think, look out for her next year. She's probably gonna get one more fight in probably December this year, but next year she could be on a hunt. And I'd like to see her up against a striker a bit more, but Carla Esparza, someone like that who can wrestle, and has a different style in terms of grappling attributes. I think that would be nice for her. But again, anyone who is willing to take Mackenzie Dern to the floor is probably going to lose.
That is just chucking money at Mackenzie Dern, because that's all Carla Esparza can do. She can only take you down, and she just holds you there the whole fight. So if you're trying to give her Mackenzie Dern, that fight's over in seconds. And what you said as well about she was almost a meme and stuff, that's just a creep thing in the internet for some reason, that any girl that's taking a good looking photo shoot, all these guys seem to absolutely despise them on Twitter. They're absolute little weirdos. And we see it with Jessica Rose Clark on the card as well, since she's got a bit of a following with it. But yeah, Mackenzie Dern had the exact same thing when she came in. She came in as this good looking girl. She'd done a couple of photo shoots and stuff like that. She had a little bit of that, like just a reputation as a good looking girl and especially with the jiu-jitsu background, always seems to be able to produce good looking birds. And yeah, you get these guys online that just have this hatred for the fact that, oh, what's this good looking girl doing a mass sport? And it's like, how the fuck cares when they get in the cage? What I want to see is somebody's arm getting snapped or someone's eyebrow getting cut open. The last thing I'm thinking is, oh yeah, she's got a nice ass, So I don't know what these little creeps are doing when they're focusing so much on someone's looks and stuff like that, as opposed to thinking, look at her, she's 9-1. She's been fighting a lot of those fights in the UFC. She's just beat Miranda Marcos with her eyes closed. Yeah, she does deserve the respect she's getting now, and hopefully all those little dickheads that keep giving people at her abuse can just focus on someone else,
Yeah, definitely. She's definitely being thought of in a sense that it's thorough fighting now in the past 2 fights in this year. And there was a lot with Misha Watterson in terms of that mum champ. Maybe we see Mackenzie Dern take that mum champ status thorough. Maybe she could be the first to do it. Well, I'd imagine. Yeah, it's like it's I think that has been a big change. I think she's settled down now. She's obviously married now with a child, and I think that's been the best of her in terms of her career future. And we said 27 years of age. She's gonna be someone to watch out for next year and for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, now that she's got something to fight for as well, more than herself, that she knows that she's not going to be fighting for the next 20 years or something like that, so she can just maximise how much she earns. She knows she's got a kid now. Yeah, that's always going to be a good motivator. Unless you're Rockhold, apparently, who says that he can't even have a girlfriend while he's fighting. Maybe he could do with one now because he's not getting much success with the fighting. Don't know why I just decided to disrupt Rockhold. Any opportunity to get shot at with Rockhold, I'm in.
Poor Luke Rockhold. He's done nothing there. He is returning soon, so I don't know about that one. But we move on to, you set that up perfectly for a middleweight bout, which in my opinion was fight of the night. I feel a bit robbed that he didn't get given that bonus and they didn't get their 50k each. But Kevin Holland, Darren Stewart performed, and then it's a barn burner nonetheless. And it's one of those ones where it's perfectly placed to open the main card up.
Yeah, Darren Stewart's a weird one as well, because you look at him and you think, oh, he's just going to come out with that massive power. He's look at the size of his arms and stuff, but he doesn't do what you're expecting. He's an odd one in the cage. He's unorthodox a bit and stuff like that. Sometimes he looks slow, sometimes he looks rapid. I'd say it's a nightmare to try and get your head around him. But what a fight! Yeah, it was brilliant. Both guys with tons of character, loads of intrigue to the two of them, both before and during the fight. And yeah, it was just tons of fun the whole way through. I thought we're actually going to get a little bit of bad blood at sometimes in the fight, because they seem to be maybe pushing towards that a little bit, which would be surprising since Darren Stewart seems like the nicest guy in the UFC. But yeah, no, it was a great fight. I did slightly edge it to Stewart, but you can't disagree with the decision at all. It was very close. I think a lot of people did give it to Holland as well, so I was probably the one on the outskirts of that. But great fight, yeah. Shame they didn't get that bonus, because both guys deserved, like, at least Darren Stewart deserved a nod for his efforts in that fight.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're spot on there in terms of the bad blood. Kevin Holland did say in the build up to the fight he got Darren Stewart's personality wrong. He thought he was someone he was going to have a back and forth with, but he said he seems like a pretty decent guy, and after the fight we can probably go and have a drink together. And then it's cool that was Marvin Vettori and Khamzat Chimaev, especially after what happened in Vegas. I think that would be a good fight against Chimaev, Kevin Holland. But I've become a huge fan of him. He's been one of those fighters that have really benefited from the no crowds and benefited this year. You heard him at the start of that third round going, all right, let's get this fight tonight, money bonus, let's get it. And you heard him, talking to each other. I think even in the first round, didn't he? He was like, oh, you actually hit harder than I thought.
I loved. I don't know if you see that it was on. You might have actually posted it yourself, but it was in. He put up on Twitter before the fight, or he was in an interview, and he said that he got the contract through, and he seen he was fighting an English guy called Darren, and he was saying to himself, "Oh, I've made it. I'm going to be fighting Darren Till. This is amazing. I can't believe I'm actually fighting him." And then the poster came out, and he's like, "Oh, that's not Darren Till. Oh, great." I thought that was my moment to make it big, and no. I don't know how true it is, but it's an amazing story. Not knowing.
Yeah, he's becoming one of those good guys, and he's got a good bit of banter about him. He's not one that's taking himself too seriously. Again, he's probably someone who is close on that outskirts of just being in those top 15 rankings. But he's got a great end of the year towards him. He's got a great future going into 2021. He's probably one of those hottest prospects that you're looking at going into that year. But Darren Stewart, I feel sorry for him. Obviously he had that fight at UFC London that got moved to the Cage Warriors card, so the environment and it was uncertain whether he was going to be fighting that weekend. He looked great in his last fight against Maki Pitolo, but again, it's fine margins this game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But the plus side is Darren Stewart said after his last fight that he doesn't care if he loses his next 10 fight. I can't remember what his point was about that, where what his philosophical turnaround on that was, but he did say it, so at least that's something. I'm sure Kevin Holland doesn't want to lose his next 10 fight. But yeah, Kevin Holland's looking amazing right now. Yeah, he did have that loss to Brad Allen a while ago, but since then, bouncing back, he got some really good wins. Anthony Hernandez, I know he doesn't necessarily get the credit now, but before the Cerrone fight, he was getting looked at as the next super prospect, and he was the second guy to put a loss in his record. So yeah, he's looking really good, Kevin Holland. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep pushing that forward, keep that sort of momentum going. He's on a 3-fight win streak now. I don't think people don't usually look at things like the split decision when you're booking fights next and all that. You just kind of think to yourself, like, he beat Darren Stewart. That's a good name. So hopefully we'll see something good from the next, and hopefully Darren Stewart can bounce back strong from that one, because he's always one of the funnest guys to watch in the UFC, I think.
Yeah, we'll take a quick look at the statistics in a little while, but that's one of those fights that I messaged Quilter saying, I want 2 more rounds of this.
Yeah.
I'd be well happy with them running it back, and it was also one of those perfect fights for the no crowd, because as mentioned earlier, that you can hear everything in there. It was perfectly set up, and you could see it 2, 3, 4 rounds. I'm taking that all day long.
Even speaking to his corner, I think it was after the first round that it was a little bit edgy on the feet. Maybe Darren Stewart maybe edged him out in that round, and they're saying to him like, "Oh yeah, maybe you should take him down." He's like, "Yeah, but I kind of like striking this round. I'm kind of feeling the striking." So he just, cool guy, Kevin Holland. I'm not the biggest TikTok fan in the world, but Darren Stewart's an original guy to be doing TikToks all the time. So two funny guys. So it's good to see them be able to show their personality in the cage like they did, I think.
Definitely, and another quick look there. 163 strikes out of 223, 74 significant. You see there on Darren Stewart's side, 97 out of 159. 57 significant strikes out of 110, and 3 takedowns. Very, very close fight. And we look at the scoring in MMA. The third round was 46-32 strikes in favor of Kevin Holland. Sorry, but 2 takedowns to Darren Stewart. If you was a judge, which way would you edge that? Obviously, it's hard to see it without the actual fight footage. But if you saw that on the statistics, which way would you edge that?
From those statistics, I think the massive amount of strike difference. I know significant strikes is there, and I know Daniel Cormier got to explain to him and knows what it is. But again, I'm not entirely sure what the difference between the two of them is. If a strike lands, yeah, but obviously, that's my lack of understanding of the rules, because I know that got said in the broadcast once, and apparently Daniel Cormier got ripped to shreds about it. But from that, it looks like Kevin Holland. I did edge it to Darren Stewart in the fight, but I'm also, it was the start of the main card. I had a few cans on me at that point. You never know. I could have been scoring that fight to anybody by that point. I could have been scoring it to Darren Till.
No, it was very close, and I just remembered there, Darren Stewart was punching the bottom of the Kevin Holland seat when there was a takedown. I don't know if they count as significant strikes, but they certainly add up to the tally of the strikes.
Yeah. That's it. It reminded me a little bit of Anderson Silva. There was times that he'd be standing in front of somebody and do like a hammer fist or a jab to the leg, and you're like, "What's that? What's the point of that? Is that a real move? Am I missing something here?" And yeah, punches to the sole of the foot. That's a new one.
100%. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Obviously, we mentioned going into this weekend. It's one of the best cards for a fight night that we've seen in a long while. It's one of those cards where you would have gone, if there was a £20 price put on top of it, you're going, I'm purchasing that straight away. The main card absolutely delivered. The prelims as well was phenomenal as well.
Lots of good finishes on that as well.
Yeah, Randy Costa definitely, with that head kick in his fight,
Yeah.
he looked dangerous as well.
Seems like a really good character as well. Seems so energetic and happy with it. But yeah, we had a great fight card there, but we're building up to an even better fight card next week. 2 title fights, so
Okay, I'm probably going to get crucified for this because I'm an Adesanya fan as well. But I actually preferred the card that we just had compared to next week's Easy Take Out the title fights.
I don't know about the card. Yeah, I suppose there were some good ones on it. I think this one matches up for more craziness. I think like you've got Diego Sanchez on this card. If you don't have Diego Sanchez on your card, it's not going to be better than the next. I suppose there's maybe a little bit more at stake in the next one. Obviously, first ever light heavyweight champion that isn't Jones in DC since what, in a decade now, something like that, since Shogun all those years back. So yeah, it's going to be a great card. We'll obviously get our preview rocking on that one beforehand, but yeah, well, it's a good time to be an MMA fan for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. This week we've got obviously the Cage Warriors trilogy. Thursday, Friday, Saturday night we've got UFC 253 on Saturday night. Of course, we've got the return of Bellator European Series with Bellator Milan on Saturday as well. So you're going to be pretty dead Sunday morning, aren't you?
Us Europeans are winning for once, and then we're building all the way up to that Khabib card that's going to be at normal time. It's a good time. We're finally getting catered to us over here. Yeah, Cage Warriors trilogy, Bellator Europe, loads of great cards. And we'll talk about some of those cards in one of the videos during the week as well.
Of course, and that's your cue, guys, to hit that subscribe and make sure you don't miss any of the content coming up this week. We've got a Luke Trainer interview who's fighting on the prelims at Bellator Europe coming out this week as well. Of course, we'll have the regulars MMA debate, the preview coming on Saturday night as well. And obviously, Gary and Quarter will be discussing Cage Warriors trilogy coming this week, of course. So yes, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're on Facebook watching this as well, dodge over to the YouTube channel. I think the link's in the description of the page as well. So click that, and we're on the road to 10k. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Of course, make sure to give Gary a follow at European or Europe_MMA. He's been covering a lot of the European circuit recently. Of course, you'll see him obviously a lot this week in terms of what's coming up as well. And we'll see you guys on the next video.